But I mean,
and that's literally why I buy my porn rather than like just straight downloading shit willy nilly. I mean, when you think about it, OnlyFans, Fansly, Just for Fans, whatever. That's like the farmers market, organic. There's a lot less hands between you and the performer. I'm
hands.
just saying.
Yeah.
That's why I buy my porn. That's probably why your laptops lasted as long, and that's why mine's lasted as long, because I'm not really out here just really downloading willy nilly.
Yeah, no,
It's scary out there.
My laptop is pristine and has not been sullied by any such pornography, and that's why it has lasted 7 incredible years without
And
dying.
and I mean, you're not even downloading any in protest because of Texas.
No, just I don't know. Some people are porn people, some people aren't.
That's fair.
I'm not porn people.
That's fair. I'm just mad. I just feel bad for Texas, and I know that if DeSantis gets mad enough, he might try. We tend to be monkey see, monkey do with Texas at this point.
I mean, with I think there's a lot of misinformation as per the plan about the reason why Pornhub is pulling out, and is not because they want people to verify their age, but because they want people to put their government issued identification in every time they access pornography. And yeah, the state shouldn't have a record of when you are looking at pornography.
They really don't need that, because then they'll learn some very uncomfortable truths.
I mean, it could be a great sort of, God, I would love to know if there's a way to make sure that we can have public employees. But then again, after that whole thing with Robert Bork, where they got his video rental history, you remember they made publicizing video rental history illegal just for that one thing. If there's a loophole that allows that information to be public, it'll be closed really quick. It'll be like if you could figure out a way, like which RNC employees and members are on Grindr during every convention.
But during CPAC, or you go to rentboy.com and you see who's been buying whose services. Or you just see who's been buying services. You camouflage the boy's name.
My name is Grinsey Lamb, and I am looking for.
I'm looking for a versatile, top-leaning, white cut, handsome, height, weight proportionate, preferably with military experience. I think listen. That, I mean, if we could find a way to publish the Grindr habits of the RNC, or the Grindr habits around Chicago or wherever they're holding the RNC, I think some very interesting things would be learned. But at this rate, I don't even think that RNC gonna have money to have a convention.
That's an incredible bit of. I mean, Trump performing coups is not limited to the actual government. He has also perpetrated a coup against the RNC by installing Lara as the co-chair. And now it's. I mean, I think we may have talked about this last week or the week before.
I think we briefly touched upon it.
The RNC by the general election may be severely limited, and it may not be. Biden winning the election may not be a function of him appealing more or his unforced errors causing him to lose. It may be a function of the lack of health of the RNC and fundraising difficulties when they are funneling money to his legal defense fund.
Yeah, and they could very well lose. They could very well lose the House. Because you think they're gonna give money to any of them down ballot candidates. I hope they understand you not getting shit.
I mean, the primary is today for certain key.
Florida's primary is today, but I mean, I did not make the trek south because I didn't have anything to trek south for.
And in Pennsylvania, there's really no point with this primary. I mean, Bob Casey does not have any kind of challenge that's going to win. His challenge is an underfunded and unknown progressive candidate who is
Sorry.
it's not even going to come close to unseating him.
Sorry for you.
Yeah, and my rep, he's, but I don't even know if anybody's challenging him. To be honest,
Is he aight, or is it just he's not challenge? He doesn't have a challenger.
he's all right.
So it's like he aight. I'm not even leaving the house. I think
for a Democrat who has to win votes in an area of the state that leans Republican, he does a good job. I'm aware of the limitations of his position.
Mm-hmm.
He is a very sort of locally focused populist.
Smart man. That's how you survive.
In the sense that he does not in any way represent causes that I approve of, and in some ways, he's never really worked against the policies that I approve of. He focuses on things like that are really important, basic jobs, infrastructure, shit like that.
Yeah, in other words, he's there just trying to get y'all funding for shit, trying to just get his chunk of the pork. She's just trying to bring home his little slice of the bacon so that y'all can eat.
Yeah, and at a certain point, if we've got to have, if we've got to have a slim majority at some point, and that slim majority is made up of a lot of moderates that keep progress from getting made. Well, frankly, as long as we have control of committees, subpoena power, things like that, it is important. I would rather we have a much stronger majority, but I mean, the reality of the situation is what it is. When it comes to the Senate, of course, I'm worried. Sherrod Brown in Ohio is kind of
it's soft.
He's pushing for a more extreme opponent, which I mean, it works.
I don't know why he asking for a more extreme opponent. Like,
it worked in Arizona with Blake Masters. It worked in was it Vermont or New Hampshire with Don Bolduc.
I want to say New Hampshire,
and it worked in Pennsylvania with Doug Mastriano, and that's how. We got Mastriano as the opponent to Shapiro, and Shapiro knocked him out of the water. And, let's face it, Shapiro is not a charismatic guy.
No, he's not, but he makes...
And he won, I think... I don't think he would have lost to another candidate, but I think the scale of his victory is because we had Doug Mastriano as the opponent.
Yeah.
And I think Shapiro has been able to shine in a crisis like with I-95.
Like, I know you hold, and I 100% understand holding on to I-95 as the totem of, yes, Josh Shapiro is viable, motherfuckers.
I mean, he outshone Pete Buttigieg when it comes to infrastructure.
Yeah.
In a very big way, because Pete Buttigieg, I'm sorry, but I know he's knowledgeable, but it was incredibly stupid of him to not show up in East Palestine immediately.
Yeah, that was a mistake on his part, and I hope he acknowledges that and doesn't fuck up like that again. But at least like I said, y'all, like, the way Shapiro got everything together and got y'all together, that is the kind of stuff that the big money Democratic donors are going to remember that.
Yeah, I'd much rather have him than Gavin Newsom. Let's face it, Gavin Newsom, I do not think could win Pennsylvania.
No, he couldn't. But Josh Shapiro could win California. Yeah. Josh Shapiro could very well win California. Not just, I'm voting for Josh Shapiro because he's a Democrat, but it's I'm here for this. In other words, I like Gavin Newsom could not win Florida. But honestly, I think Josh Shapiro could make the Florida GOP very uncomfortable.
Yeah. There's an element of him. There's an old school Democrat element of him in a way that I think is very different to Biden. I think he's clearly a jobs Democrat. He is he's not like gung-ho, like super pro, union type Democrat that Biden is
But-
somehow.
But
Biden's great with labor, but the thing is, he's a very old school. Like, we need jobs, we need manufacturing, we need you
yeah,
know.
he's not going to stand on a picket line with the head of the UAW, but the head of the UAW will definitely say, "Oh, Josh Shapiro, he aight."
Yeah,
And that will be enough. And all we need to do now is just teach him like 5 words of Spanish, and I think he'll be fine. You know I'm right. You know
Yeah.
I'm right. You got to teach him like at least 5 to 12 words of Spanish. Have him start going into the no, I'm not kidding. If he has any
Well,
magical
I'm just
ambition,
picturing in my head Cory Booker trying to do that Spanish shit again, and then Josh Shapiro beating him to it, just like Beto did.
but honestly, no, he needs to start going. He needs to be at the bodega from now. If he starts showing up at the bodega from now, it won't be weird when he does it 4 years from now.
I think what Josh Shapiro has, and I don't know if it's going to translate so much in Florida, but I mean, if in Florida you have the Panhandle and you have the rest of Florida and all that sort of stuff, and Miami's way different from Tampa and all that kind of stuff. A state that big, you've got all these sort of regional differences. In Pennsylvania, there's something about Josh Shapiro, and I don't know how much this will make sense, but he has a very Western Pennsylvania appeal. He is not the kind of Pennsylvanian that Ed Rendell was.
No, I sense that you were saying that he's a different kind of flavor. I just need to know one thing. Is the division between Wawa and Sheetz regional?
To a great extent, yes.
So which one is which?
Sheetz is the one that sucks.
Other than that, is Sheetz Western or Eastern PA?
Sheetz is more Western, but it is in the East. I mean, there's a Sheetz pretty close to me, but there's more Wawa.
So Wawa, even though there's probably a Wawa or two in Western PA, I'm assuming Wawa is an Eastern PA John.
That's where it started. I mean, Wawa.
It's an Eastern PA John.
Oh yeah,
Wawa. Sheetz. I don't really fuck with Sheetz. I don't know Sheetz. I don't know her.
I mean, it's kind of irrelevant now because Wawa may have started, as southeastern Pennsylvania, but it's grown so much and it's heading out to the Rust Belt too.
I have a Wawa by my house, and I have a Wawa by my house.
It was huge when they opened in Florida and when they opened in Virginia Beach, but now they're moving out to Indiana and Ohio, I believe. I think maybe
do they deserve? I'm almost like, do they deserve it?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I think the Rust Belt is winnable. I think the Rust Belt.
I just feel like I know you believe Wawa is a human right, but I don't know about it.
I just think that people have been suffering under the yoke of Sheetz for too long, and their crappy sandwiches, and they suck. Their sandwiches suck. My
roommate's like, I do not go to a gas station for food. I'm like, listen, the salads at Wawa are okay. Breakfast at Wawa is okay. I will give them mad credit for their hash browns. Their hash browns slap, and people need to make peace with that.
I'm mad that
their pretzels are awesome.
Their pizza is ass though, and the fact.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad. Thank you. Because I don't know a single living human being that actually likes the Wawa pizza.
It's horrible. I tried it once.
I'm willing to try their fries though.
The fries are good.
Okay, noted.
They got that like Checkers and Rallies kind of like spiced fries.
Ooh.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I mean
okay, how serious?
Yep, that's serious indeed. He's got a lot to say.
Well, I'm guessing he's letting you know he's already worked. He already would like he's already emailed the Josh Shapiro campaign asking for a yard sign.
See, that's the thing I do love about Josh Shapiro and why I see him as a president. It's the national appeal. And there's a reason why, despite the fact that I am to the left of a lot of the Democratic Party, I recognize the electoral realities of a national office. And it's not about the policy positions of the man at the top. It's about the coalitions that get built. So I am much more concerned about voting for people closer to my ideology and making sure that they're in office at the local, state, and congressional level. When it comes to national office, a lot of times, it's just important that you need a non-obstructionist body there. Now, Biden, when it comes to foreign policy, you get a situation where there is an incredibly horrific and bloody battle, and I don't want to call it a war because it's not a fucking war. It's so lopsided. But basically, what is increasingly clear to be a genocide going on, and Biden has not risen to that.
The most that he's doing is he's making noises about probably withholding money that would go to Israeli settlements, and I'm like, that's great. It's a start. It's something. It's better than nothing. But is it? But let's be serious here, Joseph Robinette.
He's to the right of Ronald Reagan on Israel, because frankly, during the Lebanon War, Ronald Reagan was on the phone and said that this is a Holocaust, to that, knowing damn well what his words meant.
Yeah, I mean, the closest he came was saying that me and Netanyahu were going to have a come to Jesus moment, and I'm like, oh, that's spicy, sir.
Yeah.
Are you really going to have a come to Jesus moment, or was that just for us?
No, I think it's just for us. I mean, it's all those sort of controlled leaks where they're just putting out to the newspapers that, oh man, he's really frustrated with Netanyahu. Well, fucking do something, asshole. But I will say that I think it is very clear, Biden has at this point, joined the ranks of all the presidents going to hell, just like pretty much all the rest of them, but for Jimmy Carter and possibly John Quincy Adams. Seemed like a pretty cool dude.
I will give John Quincy Adams in his pre-presidential legal career, he did pre or post, I'm not sure. Post. He did defend the men of the Amistad. So I mean, he might get into purgatory for that.
They were both he and his father were both abolitionists, but his father did put people in jail for making fun of him, so
Yeah, like I said, I think John Quincy Adams is definitely going to make purgatory. He's definitely hitting purgatory for that.
But regardless, when it comes to policy on Israel, Biden is a nightmare. But Trump's own statements have proven that he's not even giving it, like,
he doesn't give a fuck.
The hypocrisy and the just inane nonsense of building a pier to get aid in when we're also funding Israel is fucking insane. But Trump not only wouldn't do that much, but he has made it clear that were he in the same position, he would encourage Netanyahu to basically finish the job and do it quick.
Basically he encouraged that just so that he could get Trump Hotel Gaza. You think I'm kidding? I'm not.
Well, the lip service resistance from Biden has thus far at least allowed some amount of breathing room. That's not to his credit. I'm just saying that if Trump were in office and had won in 2020, this situation would be a lot worse. And there's, of course, his side would say, well, if Trump were in office, this never would have happened. Hamas never would have come. I'm like, man.
No, they would have just randomly started bombing Gaza for no reason, and Trump would have been like, okay, whatever.
So I think, that's my point on that. But let's pivot a little bit to Trump's many recent comments. They sort of, in many ways, this is old news because it's rhetoric he's been doing since 2015. But he's been kind of slight. He's been doing it under the radar, but now he's getting loud about it. Yeah. In particular, I know that there's a lot of hand-wringing around the media focusing on him using the term bloodbath. And it is very clear in the context of everything that he is indeed talking about the auto industry. So I think manufacturing that to be the thing we get all up in arms about is giving ammunition to the people on Trump's side in the
That
messaging war,
part.
saying the media is just hyping things up. I'm like, why don't you focus on the things he actually said that are disturbing?
That exactly. The things like the way he said that if you're a Jew and you vote Democrat. And I'm like, do you even have the range for this conversation? I mean, once again, he enters a conversation that he has no range for and reaches for the highest note, saying that you're not Jewish if you saying you're not Jewish and you don't respect your religion if you vote Democrat.
And it's a trope he's used many times. The sort of, I mean, he's done the dual loyalty, bit before, and
Yeah, I mean, he's danced on the edge of actual anti-Semitism enough. On the fact that people keep bringing up the fact, oh yeah, no, he quotes Hitler, and
he
now it's
had the book of
it's
Hitler's speeches by his bed, and I mean, it certainly shows in the way that he is extremely adept at propaganda and messaging. For however stupid he is in many ways, he understands, and this is why it made him great for TV. He understands how the psyche of the authoritarian mind works. I mean, there are a
and
lot
the
of
fact
people in
that for a lot of journalists,
authoritarians.
and for a lot of journalists, this is more of it. A Trump presidency is not an intellectual. A Trump presidency to many journalists is an intellectual exercise and not a harrowing reality.
Yeah.
I said what I said. They are seeing it as an intellectual exercise. Like a grad school. Well, what if,
Sorry, it's snowing.
what?
It's snowing
What?
right now. What temp? Oh my! I cannot believe this. It flurries. Oh god.
I don't.
It is
March. It's after St. Patrick's Day.
the first day of spring is upon us.
Exactly. Oh no, bitch.
It was 70 degrees out 3 days ago. Sorry, just
No, I also have a confusion. I'm confusion.
the dogs are outside. I think they're having fun with the snow.
But I'm confusion though.
Yeah, but anyway, Trump's psychopathy is fodder for the news media, who it makes great clicks for, and they want to get. Here's what drives me nuts: is the fact that they take something outrageous that he says and run with the whole cycle with it. And to an extent, like, look, we have an audience of 10, so it's not like we're a part of the problem, but there is an irony in us saying, on to a video that reaches at least one other person,
maybe 3,
that it's usually 1 or 2 live and then 10 total, but there is an irony in decrying the fact that people are covering this shit constantly. I think we're coming to it from a point of media criticism, but it is sort of like we need to have a substantive discussion on policy with Trump, because you throw a few things about how the extreme thing as being awful, but don't harp on it, because he still won despite all of that. The news media gave him so much free press talking about how everything he said was awful, and it was, and he won. So you're not changing hearts and minds with the outrage. What needs to be changing hearts and minds is policy and how it affects each and every one of us on the ground. And as much as I hate James Carville and Bill Clinton, rapists, I absolutely think it. I mean, it was
their theory of retail.
Stupid.
Yeah, their theory of retail politics and how it actually filters down to regular everyday people is probably one of their masterpieces is a masterpiece of statecraft for the ages. And the fact that we've already given them their flowers, but we haven't put it into practice.
Yeah.
We've given them their flowers, but we have not put it into practice. And I mean, it is frustrating dealing with a news media that treats this like it's an intellectual exercise given to them in grad school and not, holy fuck, this can actually happen. And
Especially since we have proof of concept here.
very much proof of concept.
We've seen not only what a winning Trump campaign is, and a losing Trump campaign, but we've seen a winning Trump campaign, and we're doing it again.
And he's bringing back some of the same motherfuckers. He out here making googly eyes at Paul Manafort, who actually served time. We really are doing this again, y'all. They really are out here thinking that this is going to be just I'm sorry to invoke Felicia Rashad, but I'm like, they're like thinking they headed to Baltimore for big fun. Nah, bitch. It's not gonna be like that. You little wench. You little wench. It is not going to be like that.
I haven't thought of that name in like a decade.
Listen. Listen. I'm just saying they think that this is Vanessa heading to Baltimore. They really do. They really think that's what it is, and it's really not. Big fun in Baltimore. That's what they think this is.
You know,
I'm still on the fact that it's snowing in March, and
so I'm
already scared for summer as it is.
So let's talk about now that we've gone through Trump. Let's talk about Elon and his interview with Don Lemon. And I really do apologize for this, but you think he can riff for 30 seconds on it?
Honestly, I can riff more about the fact that he currently openly discussed being on ketamine. Like, our government has a contract with him, active contracts, y'all. And he's openly talking about drug use. That is what you would call an act of moral turpitude. They used to yank clearances for this shit. They used to yank contracts for this shit. And he just out here just running his mouth. So that basically is a bat signal to any bad actor, Putin, that this man could probably be bought for a kilo of ketamine and a hooker that passed an IQ test.
Yeah, I can see.
Basically, that's what we're saying here. It's no longer that Elon Musk is basically a Bond villain who hasn't gotten to the disfiguring accident part of his character arc.
He's Stromberg from The Spy Who Loved Me. He's basically Stromberg from Spy Who Loved Me. Actually, no, he's whoever Michael Lonsdale's character was called in Moonraker. Drax. Hugo Drax.
No, Drax. There was a certain grace to Drax. There was a certain thoughtfulness to Drax. I'm going to be honest. He thinks he's Drax. He thinks he's Drax with a hint of Zorin. But he not. Yeah, I said.
I mean, he's got the Nazi ideology.
I said what I said. I said what I said. And the fact that the writers of Bond have still not given us a South African villain, that's a mistake they've made. The fact that they still haven't done that.
Honestly, since Leonardo DiCaprio is in his heyday playing villains, and he did such a great South African in Blood Diamonds. He's an incredible South African Bond villain.
I love where this is going.
So let's talk about that. To move away from, since we're on South African villain. Let's talk about the not quite confirmed rumors that Aaron Taylor Johnson is going to be the next Bond. And let me tell you, as a Bond aficionado from the age of 10 through today, to the like I could name.
Let's put it like this: he is the person that convinced me that Daniel Craig was going to be fine. Remember how much I'm like, nah, I'm not here for it. I don't cheer for it. I don't want it. I don't want Daniel Craig. Why are we using this guy Ritchie leftover? What are we doing? What do you think? What is Eon thinking? What is Barbara Broccoli thinking? Oh my God, what a mistake.
I remember it because we were all, I mean, when that boat came down the Thames with him on it, and everyone was sort of, I mean, we all called him James Blonde, and we were just sort of like, he's not Bond. Motherfucker, when Casino Roy came out, I saw that shit on my birthday in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
He was Bond.
And he grew on me. It took till Skyfall for me to actually be convinced. Then I saw all of them and I'm like, I actually still haven't seen No Time to Die because I haven't emotionally put him away yet.
I get it.
I haven't emotionally put him away yet. I'm going to give them a little bit of faith in Aaron Taylor Johnson. I'm kind of hoping he does do a little bit of philandering. We all know why.
I think it's a great choice. And I had my favorites. I mean, 15 years ago, I think, when sort of Bond was in a little bit of after Quantum of Solace, Bond kind of went into a sort of Quantum of Solace. Yeah. Purgatory. And it came back with Skyfall, but there were a little bit of rumors. They weren't big rumors, but a little bit of rumors that they would go in another direction and soon. And, there was talk of Idris Elba, and why not? I
didn't want Idris Elba as Bond. I want Idris Elba as M. I'm sorry. I would love Idris Elba as an M with a body count.
But the thing is, Ralph Fiennes so inhabits the role like Bernard Lee. He
does.
I think that was just brilliant in that respect. And I really... Idris Elba, I think, would have made a great Bond, but the timing was off.
Yeah, I said, and I still think the door is open for him to become M at some point.
He could be. I like it.
Yeah.
I saw an amazing tweet that I'm going to read about, because Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think, he was great as Kick-Ass, so I think that I really wish I could remember her name, but I can't, the actress who played Hit Girl, Chloe Grace Moretz. Her as a Bond girl, or even Moneypenny in some way, would be an absolutely fantastic
callback.
Casting everybody, because they could keep on Naomi
Harris as Moneypenny and Ralph Fiennes. Yeah, I think they'll probably keep this current crew. They seem to be the type that they'll switch out Bonds, but they're not. But they keep the crew for about 2 to 3 decades.
Bernard Lee was M for like 17 years.
Yeah.
So here we go. JB Smoove should play Q in the next Bond.
Bye. I would love to see a Q's assistant, but I've always wanted Janelle Monáe to play Q's assistant.
That could work.
I've always wanted to see Janelle Monáe as Q's assistant. Partially because she's short, and just the idea of seeing her just rummaging through something and Bond kind of, doing that. And her going, I see you, 007.
I am comfortable with like any sort of casting shakeup. I mean, Ralph Fiennes is perfect as M. I do hope they keep him, but Naomi Harris and Ben Whishaw, I think, are great. But I mean, Rory Kinnear can't keep playing Tanner if Bond is going to be a much younger Bond.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, at this point, I would probably switch out Rory Kinnear for... There is a dime store Tom Hiddleston looking dude, JJ or J something Field. He's like an American Temu version. And this is not out of hatred. I am not saying this out of hatred. I am saying this because that's my best way to describe him.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do a Jimmy Carr laugh.
But he like an American Timu version of Tom Hiddleston, and honestly, I would definitely choose him as my Tanner.
Yeah. And then, of course, we need a new Felix Leiter. And I mean, Jeffrey Wright was a great Felix Leiter. I'm glad.
I don't know. I would like to keep Jeffrey Wright as a Felix Leiter. I mean, but at the very least, can we just keep Felix Leiter black?
Yeah, it's fine with me. I mean, Felix Leiter was never really the only Felix Leiter aside from Jeffrey Wright I ever even liked was David Hedison. He only played him twice, which was more than the previous ones. But I mean, Jack Lord, as amazing as he was in Hawaii Five-0, was just nothing. He was
uninteresting and uncharismatic, and people realized that when he played Felix Leiter.
Well, and I forget the guy who played him in Thunderball, but he kind of sucked too.
Yeah, like Felix Leiter is one of those roles where you actually have to be truly a great actor and learn how to inhabit the space silently. And learn how to make every single line, every single letter, every single syllable count. And that's why Jeffrey Wright actually burns down as Felix Leiter. Like, this is the Felix Leiter I firmly believe. This is the Felix Leiter that I firmly believe is like, oh no, he'll kill for you. He will absolutely kill for you. Like, he actually gives how some Felix Leiters are a cinnamon roll, pretends to kill you, or pretends to be a cinnamon roll but will kill you. This is a Felix Leiter that will kill you. No pretending about it.
That's from an old comic, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, it's stirring up a vague memory, and I feel like this is something I definitely read a while back. But
yeah, like Jeffrey Wright, this is a Felix Leiter that will kill. He will kill it for you. It's not even a question. That's who he is.
What's amazing to me about David Hedison was that he played Felix Leiter in two tonally opposite James Bond movies and was the same character in both of them. And it worked in both of them.
Yeah. Like,
because Live and Let Die was the campiest shit.
My God. Like, during a mini series on, sadly, Bill Cosby, they interviewed the young woman that played the Bond girl for that. And they're like, yeah, you want to know? My stunt double was a white dude in blackface and a wig. Yeah, let it wash over you. Let it wash over you.
Of course.
Yeah. What? You thought they actually were going to go find a black female stunt double? Why would they do that? Yeah, black women are disposable, but, we're not trusting them to do stunts.
Anyway, blacked out there.
Yeah, you blacked like I said, they.
So, but anyway, I do think Aaron Taylor Johnson would make a great Bond. So I do hope that was true. I think that was probably the best case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, there are still members of the cavalry who somehow still think what's his face could be Bond, and I'm like, A, he's too big, and B, he's too funny.
What's his name?
Henry Cavill. I'm like, no, he's too big and he's too funny. He's too funny. He is from the Pierce Brosnan era of Bonds. If he were to play a Bond, he's from the Pierce Brosnan era. He is not serious.
He's also just.
He's not serious.
I don't get the big fucking deal about Henry Cavill. Look, The Witcher was fine.
I mean,
I don't get it. And maybe it's the fault of the material. Man of Steel was certainly a movie. And, like, Superman is not an interesting character whatsoever.
No, he's not. It's the fact that he is enough of a blank space that you can project any of your fantasies upon him.
James Bond should not be a blank slate. And that's, like, the key to, like, I know that to a certain extent, there's varying degree. it's very rare for a James Bond movie to delve into the emotional arc of the character. You don't get it often. You get it sometimes in stuff like On Her Majesty's Secret Service was the first
Of
great
course.
Bond film. It was the first Bond movie that I would say is cinema. It is film. It is the kind of thing a
It's a
snob
one
would
it's
look at
not just a
today.
good it's not just a good movie, it's a standalone.
And it's because you are delving into, and I don't just mean the stuff with Tracy, even Ted. I just mean the stuff about obsession and duty and inhabiting an identity as a secret agent. Like
Mhm.
he spends more time in cover in that movie than I think any previous movie he had done.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's really great, you know. But so and over time there have been more emotional bonds, or at least more bonds that explore whether
Bond
it's
as a person.
yeah. And you know, and a lot of times it comes from the darkness that is in Bond, because like For Your
Yeah.
Eyes Only is one of those instances where I think Roger Moore doesn't get enough credit because he had, you know, half of the movies were camp bullshit, but I don't
Mhm.
think he gets enough credit for how brutal his Bond was at times and how
Yeah.
cold blooded his Bond was.
I
And
mean, while Craig, he was fully aware of that character, but I have to say, people, it Quantum of Solace is honestly slept on.
I like it a lot.
I
I,
like
I
it
do not
because
think it's a bad movie. Its detractors are wrong.
it's the first time you see Bond in relationship with a woman that does nothing that he does not make a move on sexually. He respects this woman's trauma. He respects this woman's trauma to the point of almost self-sacrifice.
And there's also the element where you can see Bond trying to put the mask back on, trying to
Mhm.
build the calluses back up after the last
But
movie, and
it's
overcorrecting to
hard,
an extreme
man.
extent.
Yeah.
He turns himself too callous,
This.
and it's you can see how hard he's trying to be a bastard in that movie, and that it's
Yes.
not
It just
natural.
doesn't quit. It doesn't click fully. It really don't. But it's the fact that in Quantum of Solace, you finally see this is the Bond that's a friend. This is a Bond that actually that actually, yes, this woman was useful to you, but I'm not just going to use her back. I am going to, if she feels that she has to kill herself in order to get through the mission, I will hold her and look for another way.
There is an emotional arc through Daniel Craig's Bond films that I think was only ever hinted at one
Mhm.
movie at a time in previous ones. Like prior to that, I think the best, you know, emotionally resonant Bond film was License to Kill. And it's not, you know, and that's the one that explores less the melancholic part, but more the
Mhm.
darkness and
Yeah.
it, you know, a great exploration of like multiple points of loyalty. And I realize, you know, I may be reading a lot into it, but I just think it was
I
really
don't
well
think
done.
so.
And I think that Timothy Dalton made an incredible Bond. I think, you know, if I were to choose who I think were the best Bonds, and I'm not just saying based on the source material, but based also on the emotional resonance and the believability of that, I think Timothy Dalton and Daniel Craig both possessed darkness and warmth
Yeah.
with incredible competence as actors.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely there like those were bonds that you could feel were real people and not just like an avatar of imperial musculature or something.
And Pierce Brosnan, I do love Pierce Brosnan, but the thing is, he did not inhabit the darkness.
No, he did not. That's why I said Henry Cavill is a would be a Bond out of that mold, and we're not doing that anymore. We really not.
Yeah. And I think that Roger Moore, not a great actor, and so he couldn't sell the more dramatic emotional parts, very well, and
No, he
neither could Sean
didn't.
Connery. And to George Lazenby did a good job. I think he was a pretty good actor for a non-actor, and I think that the writing was so incredibly strong that the fact that he didn't have the strength of others is kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, sometimes you get a script that's so good that anybody can make it into decent material. That anybody with eyes, a mouth, and a vocal box could make it into decent material.
Yeah. So yeah, we went down a path.
Oh well, we went there. It was great. Like I said, good luck to Aaron Taylor Johnson. And I don't normally root for somebody to cheat on the set, but I'm gonna root for him.
So
I'm sorry.
Let's talk a little bit about JK Rowling, and
Boo.
we'll end on a better subject. But I just think we're talking about the mask slipping on.
I'm gonna be honest. I was waiting for that.
I think we all were. I don't think anybody from our position really thought any different when she came out like 5 years and said, "Oh, it was a middle-aged moment." My clumsy fingers liking some tweets, blah blah blah. Like,
girl, bye.
We know JoJo. We know, and I think ultimately her incredulity at the idea that transgender individuals were targets of the Nazis is just insane.
That's hilarious to me. It's
and
the
then
fact
upon
that
being challenged with mountains of evidence, basically said that transgender people were trying to center themselves in the Holocaust.
They were not.
Like,
no,
you brought it up, and people are showing you receipts. That's why you're getting inundated with it. No one's trying to center themselves in the Holocaust.
So they're just simply trying to assert the fact that they exist, Joanne. And I guess in the end, whenever, and it's just one of those things that it's just hashtag marginalized people things. Anytime you assert your rightful spot in the historical record, everyone will say that you're centering yourself. It's like when Black people say, when they talk about genocides in the Americas, and Black people say, well, technically you can argue that the transatlantic slave trade was a genocide, and then some people will look at you and be like, you're centering yourself. And you're like,
erasure of culture is genocide. Even if you forget all the people that died just on the way from the Middle Passage, erasure of culture is genocide. I mean, it's in the definition. It's in the fucking definition. I realize genocide wasn't a term that was coined until after the Holocaust, but ultimately,
just because genocide is a recently new term, genocide being a recently new term does not mean that genocide is a recently new concept. I believe quite frankly, the Romani and Armenian Twitter could ball you down for that. Yeah. So honestly, to sit here and say, for Joanne to sit here and be like, oh, trans people are just centering themselves, they're exaggerating as always. I'm like, I've heard this song before. I have heard this song before. I've heard people say, oh, you're from Jamaica. Slavery couldn't have been that bad. Do you know what a sugar plantation's like, my dear? Are we really doing this today?
I definitely don't like the whole conversation that people sometimes try to have about the degrees of slavery.
Yeah,
just arguing like, there were slave owners who were nicer, and I'm like, dude, don't.
Like Ron DeSantis doing it was a job. No, bitch, it was not a jobs program. And just because some Senegalese child bride managed to close her eyes and close her eyes and look at the ceiling long enough to outlive the elderly white man she married to end up inheriting his plantation does not make slavery okay. Oh yeah, there's a plantation in Jacksonville. What happened was that a black woman ended up owning it because she was taken, I believe, from Senegal to Cuba. It was, I believe, bought in Cuba, if my memory serves me correct. Please, I'll issue a correction. I'll issue a correction next week if I gotta. She got into a relationship with this man. I think she was like 20, he was like 70 something. She had a bunch of children by him. It happens. He died the way the will was written, and because this was before Florida became like formally English land, she ended up owning it. And I think she became like the first black female landowner in Florida or some shit like that. But that's not a love, like, listen, that's the kind of shit that people talking about it makes me like, great. So that means you must think, Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings is a love story. I used to think that too. Then I went to middle school. Like, seriously.
I think there's a tendency for. So let me start over. JK Rowling basically first denying that Nazis targeted the Institute for Sexual
Sexual Research and Studies, I believe, is the translated name for the place.
Is one thing. Then when confronted with it, defensively said that, trans people are trying to center themselves in the Holocaust. Then tries to say that these weren't trans people. These were basically gay men who were transvestites, and they were counted as such and, sent to camps. And it's just like, okay, so their point of view was that there's no such thing as transgender people, much like your point of view, because she has graduated to basically saying that trans women are men in dresses. And
Scythian trans women did not drink Pregnant Mares Union 4 millennia ago for no damn reason. What the fuck is wrong with her?
Everything.
Like, I'm sorry, their foremothers did not drink Pregnant Mare's urine, which I don't think that had to be unpleasant as fuck.
It's JK. I mean, we spend so much time because there's lots of people with different views like JK Rowling, but she pals around with white supremacists and people who are fine palling around with white supremacists. I mean, there's
you might as well listen. I'm just gonna say is Kingsley Shacklebolt. I'm sorry. You name a character Kingsley Shacklebolt. You name your one Jewish character who you see in passing, Anthony was it Goldsmith or Goldberg?
I don't remember, and I also don't care because
but you understand where I'm going.
Put in as much thought of it as she did to.
She literally called the Chinese student, I think,
Cho Chang. Fucking name was Cho fucking Chang.
Like, ma'am, you live in England. You live in England. You could have opened the goddamn phone book.
She puts a quarter of an ass into it. And
like, you could have opened the goddamn phone book. I am not asking for something as thoughtfully hilariously colonial as Beryl Chen.
People
Victoria
were from the beginning based on the goblins' control and at their illustration.
And the fact that when I learned is that
something's wrong with her.
And the fact that I learned how she viewed indigenous American medicine people as charlatans. Charlatans, bitch! Is we really doing this today? Are we really sitting on Wilma Mankiller's internets like this? Is this really what we doing?
No, all these little, white kids and then the few tokens that you deign to write about in your story all know all the real magic. All the other magic is not real magic.
Yeah, like, bitch, is you... And also, the distribution of the schools. Nothing pissed me off more. You only have one school for all of Africa. Are you fucking kidding me? There are 55 to 60, depending on who you ask and what time we drawn from. 55 to 60 drawn countries, thousands of ethnic groups, all with their own, not just their own language, their own mythology, their own way of practicing shamanism or animism or whatever sort of pre-Christian spirituality. We really doing that. You only putting you're only putting one school in South America.
When she
Bitch,
was
is
born,
you serious?
when she was born, most of that shit was still British and French. So,
but even if it was British and French,
I'm just
based on the
saying
fact
that
that you have two different
he grew
colonial
up-
masters, you should know that there's going to be a little bit of a difference here. And the fact that no, there's still parts of Africa that speak Spanish. What are we doing? Can't even colonialist right. Can't even imperialist right.
she's fundamentally lazy, intellectually and otherwise. And you know, it's the hallmark of someone like that. That you know,
this is the kind of woman that's going to sit here and this is the kind of woman that would sit here and lecture me about Kate Middleton's right to privacy, but make fun of Meghan Markle for wanting to tell her own story from her own perspective.
Oh, and we will get to that. I think, but it's the sort of last thing. Like, her fundamental laziness is she has only ever cared about herself and people who look like her and people who are like her, and it is very clear in the way that she throws around, you know, basically every group she can imagine. She says, "Oh, we have a token. One of those is too." Dumbledore, he's gay. You know, you've got the one Asian character, you've got the one black character, you've got all these other like characters she just throws in. If she doesn't have the one character of that group itself in the book, she will mention that it's canon outside of the actual work itself. Because
like the game had a trans character. I'm assuming the trans character gets killed in some unfortunate way, because I don't think she can actually visualize a trans character actually being happy in her universe, which is something that doesn't shock anybody who paid attention.
she's just fundamentally lazy, and she
people start buying your kids Animorphs novels. They're unhinged. They are delightfully unhinged. And K.A. Applegate does not hate trans people.
Man, I remember reading the Andalite Chronicles. That shit was epic.
Like I said, Animorphs is unhinged, but delightfully unhinged. I don't normally call something delightfully unhinged, but that shit unhinged as fuck.
I just remember at one point reading the Andalite Chronicles, and the fucking school principal from their school shows up at some point in that novel, having been abducted it's just like, okay, the world can't possibly be that small. The world cannot possibly be that fucking small. Even as a kid, I was just like, nah, this is bullshit.
But like I said, I'm like, listen, buy your kids Animorphs instead. It's delightfully unhinged. It's unhinged. I read the synopsis of almost every single book. It's weird out there, and I'm living, and it's weird and it's campy.
So we touched on it just for a moment. In the last 4 minutes we have, I do want to talk about Kate Middleton, and just say that I think at this point everyone has seen the Bigfoot video.
It's not, like, I'm sorry. There are enough Kate lookalikes that I can't buy it. It's giving new Aunt Viv versus old Aunt Viv vibes. It's not. This ain't. As that lady in that TikTok said, please produce that white woman. Produce that white woman expeditiously.
There's a Paul is dead kind of vibe to it.
I'm sorry. The longer they do this, the more I'm going to be convinced that she's rotting in a shallow berm in Sandringham somewhere.
I think it's
I
her.
know that you think that
honest.
it's her, and I understand that, but it's just the fact that she went from having a swollen, puffy face in that first picture with the car that might have been AI
I mean, that
To
was
that,
a
nah,
week
nigga.
ago. Swelling does go down fast.
Not that fast. They had her at least like that was nearly 3 to 4. No, bitch. Mm-mm.
I'm gonna say, and it's not my lack of desire to. I love a good conspiracy.
Yeah.
And it's just that I'm looking at the sort of. I'm looking at the evidence that's presented to me, and I see not enough for me to cross the threshold into believing that they would half-ass things so badly. To now, to be fair, they would do a much better job if Liz was still alive.
That part. Now that's one thing I will say. Moment Big Mama died. Moment Big Liz died. It was like whatever celestial cover just came off the whole thing. Like the wheels went off the bus. It was like Tom Cruise losing Pat Kingsley. It was bad. I'm watching this entire family just get exposed.
Every single current and former territory is kind of looking at each other like, should we? Do you think?
Yeah, and
Now?
honestly, if Harry and Meghan started a subscription to Popcorn of the Week Club, I would not begrudge them. If they're going through tubs of popcorn, and if they're going through tubs of popcorn, and the weed man is basically making all of his money off of Harry, then honestly. And I'm not saying that he's smoking weed in a judgmental way. I'm saying that he's smoking weed in a California sober way because honestly, is it even really a drug?
No.
Exactly. So, I mean, honestly, at this point, no. I also am very hesitant to subscribe to conspiracy theories, but I'm not saying part of me makes jokes that she's dead. I don't really think that she is dead per se. I do think that she is being put in a position to be unavailable to the public. Because she won't play ball.
If I believe that that's not her, I believe the explanation is that she's refusing to play ball and she's refusing to help them.
That is definitely something that is definitely in my wheelhouse of possible conclusions to the story, where it's entirely possible that she just simply is like, no, I'm not going. No, we are done here. I have given you the spares. You better give me the respect. If you are ousting me out of this marriage. In other words, I will not be shocked that she is holding out because she wants half. She wants to retain some titles. In other words, she wants her fair share for popping out them kids and putting up with his shit.
If you're wondering why my camera is shaking, it's
serious, isn't it?
Nope, Sasha.
Hi, Sasha.
He is 9 years and 3.5 months old, and she jumped onto this table from the floor.
Dear. Okay, old lady, we get it.
She's very sturdy.
Old lady, we get it. But
with that, I think we got to call it a day. But
yeah, because the dogs are getting restless. My void is probably also getting restless. Eventually, there will be a public appearance of my void. I have an adorable void named Damien. Damien is adorable.
Just the way you said it.
My void. What else do you want me to call a black cat? She's cute.
Well, before we go, just so I'm seeing this just in. David Zaslav's still alive.
God damn it. I'm going to need him to not be.
Everybody.